Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me, and congratulations to the university for putting on this forum, and particularly the topic around managing conflicts of interest. Just by way of introduction, I'm the chairman of Medtronic. I've been in the medical device industry for over 33 years, and I have to tell you, I could not be more proud of what we have all done to really bring forth innovative technology to really help to improve lives for people around the world. I mean, the challenge today is as great as it's ever been as it relates to what we need to do to address the pandemic of chronic disease as one example. Medtronic, which is involved in many different areas, principally in the chronic disease, has been working to try to improve the lives of so many people who suffer from heart failure or diabetes or many of the other chronic diseases. If you think about it today, 50% of the global burden of disease, 60% of deaths worldwide are attributed to chronic disease. And if you look back over the last 30 years, it's remarkable what we've done with innovation. The things that Dr. Stack talked about, stents or defibrillation, deep brain stimulation, the advances that we've made in treating degenerative disc disease, and neuromodulation for some of the neurodegenerative diseases. Today, we know that over the last 30 years, some of the advances that we've made in healthcare technology has resulted in a 15% decline in annual mortality, 25% decline in disability rates, 56% reduction in hospital stays, an increased life expectancy of 3.2 years, and the list goes on. So how do we get here? We get here through this kind of unique sort of collaboration that involves a whole innovation ecosystem. As much as I'd love to sit here and tell you that Medtronic in itself has come forth with technologies to advance care sort of in our laboratories, it doesn't work that way. The most successful breakthrough therapies have come through this sort of unique sort of interaction between physicians and industry, supported by an ecosystem that involves academia, involves hospitals, it involves regulators, it involves advocacy groups, it involves many, many more people to ensure that we can advance innovation in this, to bring the technologies that are going to make a difference to people's lives. Now, if you look at medical devices in particular, it's a very different model than even the pharma model. I mean, what I often tell people that pharma is more bench to bedside. What we do in the device world is more bedside to bench to bedside. Our success has been our ability to recognize the Dr. Stacks of the world and the Dr. O'Neills of the world and the people who have been on the front line in bringing forth new clinical concepts and then partnering with them and working together and sort of taking advantage of their ideas and then involving them in the iteration of technologies. And then as we begin to sort of go from concept to sort of prototype and then begin to do the initial sort of studies to involve them in clinical studies. And then once we have determined that this is a safe and effective technology, to be able to involve physicians in helping us to train and to educate physicians around the world. One of our really fascinating new areas of sort of innovation is in the field of deep brain stimulation, where we're navigating these tiny little electrodes into these 1 millimeter targets in the brain to treat people with movement disorders. Now, I can assure you that if you saw one of these procedures, I mean, you would not want me training the next lab on how to do that procedure. You would want the physicians who are expert to help training their colleagues to how to do this. And to do that, I mean, it needs support, from industry. So, point being, there are so many different intersections in this whole innovation process that requires the collaboration of industry and physicians. Unfortunately, over the last number of years, there's been a number of high-profile stories in the public press that have sort of really kind of eroded the trust that has existed between physicians and industries and hospitals working together. And it's really, to some degree, I think, had an impact on patients' sort of perception and many people's who play a role in the healthcare world, their perception of this sort of this collaboration. And there are a lot of forces at play that are trying to disintermediate, our ability to be able to collaborate at the different levels that I've talked about. And as Dr. Goldsmith has said, the pendulum has swung too far. And so the challenge is, what do we do to restore trust and to restore confidence that the things that we are doing to advance innovation really are critical to bringing forth the next new deep brain stimulation, or the next new angioplasty, or the next new device to treat degenerative disc disease. At Medtronic, we have had our fair share of negative publicity, principally with our spine business, as there's been a lot of press around this, if you will, what has been considered to be inappropriate payments to physicians for the time that they invest to help us in this iteration process, or perhaps when physicians bring forth ideas and they patent these ideas, and then the payments that we make to these physicians, has raised a question as to whether these physicians are doing appropriate medicine, or are they just doing business medicine. And so, to work at restoring this trust, there are a number of things that I think that we need to do, and we've been taking a leadership role at Medtronic, and I personally have been out speaking in many different forums to try to, one, remind people about the advances that we've made and why it's so important that we have an environment where there is the means for us to work together. And yes, I do think we need to do some things to ensure that there are guardrails and there, if you will, structured principles by which we work together to ensure that those on the outside looking in can have confidence that the relationships, are appropriate. So, about 2-3 months ago, Medtronic in combination, or myself in combination with Dr. David Barrett, who is the CEO of the Leahy Clinic, sponsored by the Healthcare Leadership Council, conducted a summit called the National Dialogue around Healthcare Innovation. And we brought in all of the different stakeholders, from the government to the payers to the providers to industry, to have a full day discussion about where things were and where they were going, and what we needed to do to bring things back to the center. And at the end of that, we all concluded that one of the things that we need to do is to come forth, if you will, with a set of principles, that would define appropriate collaboration or principled collaboration, and perhaps get some organization like the Institute of Medicine or some sort of neutral body to work across all these different stakeholders to get alignment on what are these principles. Many people already have their own individual principles. My industry, the AdvaMed, we have our principles, pharma has their principles, hospital associations, but I think we need to get everybody together and agree on what could be, a set of common principles. I do think we need to make sure that the incentives are aligned in the right way, and I won't get into a lot of that right now, but there's one of the things that we need to address in healthcare. And thirdly, there's this whole issue around transparency and the importance, perhaps, of making available what it is that we do and the payments that we make, so that people can see, how those payments are structured and what it is that we're paying for in terms of clinical research, or in terms of training and education, or in terms of the intellectual property that may come with a physician. Now, many of you know in the healthcare reform bill that was passed last year, there was a part of that bill had an amendment called the Sunshine Bill, and essentially, it sets out a means by which industry will be reporting all payments to physicians. And in fact, at Medtronic, before this even came out, we took it upon ourselves to begin reporting all payments to physicians. And in fact, in May of last year, we had been working on a project for over a year, spent millions of dollars to look at all of the relationships we have and to be able to then track the payments and then put this on a public website so people could see what it is we're paying and why it is we're paying. So there are a number of things that I think we need to do in terms of principles around collaboration. We need to work on incentives. We need to work on the whole area of transparency. And contrary to what some people may think, I actually support the notion of the Sunshine Bill, because right now, otherwise, all the states are individually coming up with their own sort of unique requirements for reporting. So we have to get ahead of this, because if we're going to continue to advance innovation, in the whole field of life sciences and bring forth the next stent or the next implantable defibrillator or the next deep brain stimulation, it's not going to happen at Medtronic by ourselves. We have to be working, with the people in the clinical community who have the ideas, and to collectively work with them and partner with them to ensure that we can, in a responsible way, bring forth that next technology which is going to further advance life and make a difference in overall health care. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.